So, how do you train an athlete to lower their competitive scoring average and peak at the right time? That is one of my main points for this program. Hello, Golf Achievers. This is Brad Pluth, and this session is around periodization training, especially here in Minnesota in the month of October. And we got some funny weather, so this will be a little bit more interesting than normal. So, how do you train an athlete to lower their competitive scoring average and peak at the right time? That is one of my main points for this program. So, this is one of my favorite slides from one of the PGA seminars that I've attended. And this is understanding your development. Everybody thinks that your plan is just going to get better, right? But the universe's plans are up and down. You're going to hit some rocks. You're going to have to overcome some obstacles, and then you get a little better. And you got to cross a bridge, and then you hit that next scoring mindset or scoring goal, and you got to get better. And then you drop for a while. Buddy beats you. Another buddy that you haven't lost to beats you. You're going through a growth spurt, and then you got to fight through that. So there's just all these peaks and valleys in the development process in order to get to your goals. So this is that bottom universe's plan for you is way more realistic in fighting through those storms in your development process.
Here's what you'll need to get the most out of this training session. Parents, please watch this with your athlete. You'll both need something to write with a blank piece of paper, and we're going to plan some of your work this month as you go through each month. This is obviously January in Minnesota, and there's usually snow on the ground. This is kind of an odd year, but this should take about 30 to 45 minutes. So let's get started.
So what is periodization, and why do people use it? These will be the four areas that I'm going to cover here today. So why periodization, where is it used, best practices, and applications. So who are you planning for? Do you have a junior, you have a teen, or are you even a competitive adult that may find some benefit to using this program as well? Or are you a college player? So here's a good look at periodization. It's the technical aspect of training that may be the blending of full swing, short game, and putting. Then you're blending how you're warming up, your practice, if you will, and then your pre-competition, right? What are you doing before the round of golf? How are you getting your body and your mind ready to play your best golf? So this is a good example of what periodization really looks like in golf performance. President Dwight D. Eisenhower once said that plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And that's where the infinite wisdom of Mike Tyson, who said, you can game plan all you want. Let's see what happens when I punch you in the face. So since golf is a non-contact sport, I'd rather be prepared and strategize than let things just happen. This is one of my training programs I've gone through is Work the System, and Josh Fonger was known for saying there's time enough, but none to spare. This is one of the key findings in our training programs. So the more you can plan your work before you actually go to the course or dome or range, or when you head south, the better off you're going to be and the more efficient you'll be with your time. So if you look at what Olympic athletes surround themselves by, and again, I'm not saying you need to have all of these in place, but when I've gone to some of the world championships, a lot of these young athletes now have 6 or even 8 of these at a time. But if you're trying to get a process and get everybody on the same page, this is where periodization really helps. So obviously you're going to have the athlete as more or less the head coach or the center, and then the head coach is going to be working with the personal trainer if they need chiropractic or recovery, physical therapist and medical team, somebody to help them with their nutrition, a club fitter. Again, I recommend Second Swing. They do a great job. Emotional and mental game, and a biomechanics to make sure that their motion is not causing any injury and that they can sustain it and maximize their power. So here's a breakdown of what periodization is. It's training tasks contained within a weekly, quarterly, and annual plan. So the workloads are varied to ensure that development of specific psychological and performance outcomes at predetermined time points. So some of the principles of periodization, we talk a little bit about intensity versus volume. So obviously if you're going to train right before your peak event, it's going to look a little different than an off-season training program. Then we're also going to talk a little bit about the inverse relationship between intensity and volume and how that relates to your golf training. So here is a little bit why sometimes lessons don't necessarily translate into performance right away. So there's always a preparatory period, which I believe is probably more in the spring, but now we're kind of in that winter transition period toward the end here. We've got technique training and competitive period, and then the transition period, and kind of see how the volume of training is going to change compared to the intensity. All right. So you can kind of see there's the right mix at the right time for maximizing performance. So I'd like for you to take a minute and write down all the skills that you need that need to be planned to achieve your goals in 2021. Go ahead and pause this video and come back when you're ready. One of the things that I like to do with my players is to break up the skills that need to be planned into 4 areas. And that's your natural movement patterns, your golf swing blueprint for just your putting, wedges, approach shots, and tee shots. Also throw equipment and club fitting in there as well. So I think your equipment should complement your motion and not complicate it. And then scoring mindset, or some of the rules and strategy, pre-shot routine, post-shot routine, and emergency planning. On-course strategy, which would be, again, tee shots, approach shots, wedge shots, and putting, and then rules and strategy. So it would be a good time to talk about rules and etiquette as well during that period. And purposeful practice, that may be fitness, might be injury prevention, or again, some of the tactical skills. So if you'd like to download this form and take a look at the whole year planning, you can do so at the link provided here at the end of this video. Again, we're talking specifically about this postseason in October. I do plan on doing one of these videos a month throughout the next year. So there'll be one coming out here shortly for November as well, and what to expect in that postseason training. And if you have any questions, I invite you to send those or even leave a comment below, and I'll try to reply back to those. So again, just to kind of break this down into, we've got the technical parts of the swing, a little bit of the scoring mindset, on-course coaching, a little bit on rules and strategy, purposeful practice. Now this is important to me because I think everybody associates hitting balls with practice, and that's, to me, probably the farthest thing from the truth. So you've got what I call drills, which are internal feels of trying to develop a change in the motion, right? And you've got games, which are external focus on targets, right? I use games probably 80% of my time, 80% of the time, and drills pretty infrequently, believe it or not. I'll let my results speak for themselves. And then exercises, anything you can do without a club or a ball. And then assessments are benchmarking process or benchmarking progress. Those might be the games or skills that we do in our weekly training sessions, or just simply scoring, right? So if it's plus or minus par, whatever that is. How many training sessions are you getting in a month, and then the rounds per month. So other considerations when you're looking at fitness, try to get a good blend of agility, balance, coordination, strength, and speed. In your tournament planning, what do you need to be looking for? Are you looking to schedule some trips? This might be a good time to start thinking about spring break, Christmas break. Do you want to get away and go south? You're looking to drive down to St. Louis where you can typically play all year round. You're looking to fly, get out of the cold and go to Florida. I know I'm planning on taking a group of guys to Florida this winter, so if you want to join me, let me know. Um, and then equipment. I typically wait on equipment until February after all the things come out, and then also the prices on some of the used equipment does go down at that time as well. So a little quick tip for you for your junior golfers is that your driver should be 2/3 of their height. Okay, good thing to remember. Hope that helps.
So in January, a few things that we're trying to achieve is developing your scoring mindset and kind of talk about what would you like to achieve this year. It's a good time of year to set some goals and maybe trade up or trade down on some of those goals. Where do you want to go to school or college? What do you need to prepare for? Different things to be considerate of. And then on-course strategy. It's great to be playing in the simulators. If you can get, around in a week would be good. If you get some competition, if you go away for Christmas break or be some different activities for Martin Luther King Day and other things. So we've got a league actually coming up here in at House of Sport or the Minnesota Junior PGA. We're going to partner with to develop some leagues. The rules are coming out later in the year, so it's not a great time to. It's always a good time to learn about the rules or kind of take a perusal through the rules book. Highly recommend reading the rules book, the short one, anyways, about once a year. It's about a 35-40 minute read. It's not too much, but it's always good to remind yourself of some of the new updates, the drop procedures, and lost ball, those kind of things. This is the best time of year to make some swing changes, or again, what I call your natural movement patterns or your golf swing blueprint. So, purposeful practice, again, probably 50% of your time in drills or developing internal feels, 30% in games or target awareness activities, 15% in exercises of things you can do without a ball or a club just to get or develop body awareness. And then pretty good time to test too. Is like 5% of your time should be testing, whether that's the short game test, my golf achievement test, any of the TrackMan tests are a good thing to do. If you want to compete, you still need to be practicing probably about 4 times a week. So about every other day is probably good this time of year. If you can do a little bit more, it's even better. As far as fitness and workouts, if you're trying to compete at a high level, this is a great time to start building your body back up. 3 to 4 times a week, about 15% in agility and balance, 20% in coordination skills. That may be hitting off of odd lies. That may be tossing a ball around, whatever it is. But some of those coordination activities are good to develop this time of year. Obviously, some strength and speed. Don't mix those up, by the way. Strength is not speed, and speed is not strength. So it's a really good time, whether you use the ripstick, stack system, or kind of I've got a 3 club, 2 club up, 1 club upside down sequence that I get really good results with as well. And then always learning about nutrition and hydration and what works for you. And if you're a developing athlete, you need 8 to 10 hours of rest each night. I think we talked about the tournament planning and scheduling 1 or 2 this time of year. Even if you take a month off in January, I think you'll be just fine. But if you do get the chance to go out and play, go play.
So again, these are some of the things that we work on. You can download this form on the site as well. But you can kind of read through these here and figure out what works for you, or here's some of the key definitions of some of the things that we incorporate into our training programs. You'll be able to download some of our purposeful practice forms by going to the website that I'll provide to you at the end of this webinar. And there you'll be able to get some examples of some of the goals that I've used for different players, and also just simple benchmarking strategies for different games that we play. So here is a sample college prep program. So I've been fortunate to coach, I believe, 88 college golfers over the last decade, and this is something that we recommend, don't necessarily require, but this is kind of a typical, or what it would look like if you came and trained with us here at the Golf Achievement Academy. So Monday kind of breaks it down. You got your fitness, your skills assessments that lead into your technical training. So you kind of see the framework that we work from. Some days are light on fitness, some days are heavy, some days that we play. So this time of year, this is kind of a typical one. We probably only play once a week, focus a little bit more on the fitness and technical aspects, whereas in other parts of the year, we do the opposite. Here's an example scorecard. Again, I like to break things down and kind of keep it simple as far as tee shots, approach shots, wedge shots, and putts. And within each of these, so for tee shots, it might be 240 and then the shape of the shot. So I hit a little fade, so I draw my little curve. And if I happen to pull it, I mark it. So if I see trends within those scorecards, I can kind of look back and go, okay, the last 3 holes I've been hitting a fade. Maybe I just need to aim more left, or I just need to change my grip and not fade it so much. For putts, if you keep missing on the right side, or if you're 3-putting, is that from distance or directional control? So different things that we use in the scorecard. There's a video, again, in the website about how to use a scorecard to get the most out of it. And again, I truly believe that what gets measured gets improved, and golfers don't argue with their own data. They just don't know what to look for. So here's a sample train to play. So this is kind of our young 8 to 12-year-olds, and talk a little bit about short and long-term goal setting, whether that's a month to 3 months. We really try to reiterate the focus on the athlete and the parents as the stakeholders. We know that you guys are working together, and we want to bring you guys together and have those conversations around what's the player want, what does the parents want, just so they can hear and be on the same page as far as their performance and expectations. Some of the things that we'll typically focus on, again, this is kind of a sample one, but like putting for distance control, we may have a player hit 5 putts from 20, 40, 60 feet inside at Twin Cities Orthopedic in Eden Prairie. They hit 5 putts. They measure the distance from the shortest to longest at each of those. And that gives us a benchmark that week after week we're trying to tighten those up. Or we may work on tempo to help them improve their tempo, which will also help them with their distance control as well. So wedge distances, we may use a launch monitor and do what I call a differential. We'll write down 10 different distances, say 72 yards. Player hits it, they hit it 68 yards, their difference is 4. So they just write that down. Do 10 shots at a time, record their totals. Again, week over week, they can see if they're getting better. All right. Speed development, we'll talk a little bit more about, but I like to use some fitness training or super speed sticks. And then full swing, might just simply focus on balance and then eliminating getting frustrated on the golf course, because that was something that possibly my son was challenged with toward the end of his season here. So this is a good time also in October to meet with parents and talk about what do they see went well this season, what needs some work. Again, that quarterly planning. So as we move into the off season, obviously, where do we need to focus? Good time to review some of those key performance indicators like putts per round, shots inside of 100 yards, shots outside of 100 yards. How did they do on their following their routine? They play in the number of events that they committed to in order to peak at the right time. And then one of the assignments I think I had one of my players do was write out their pre-round routine and then watch some videos of some tour pros. So I'll also give you access in the training in the blog here as well. So for our Train to Win program, so that's our 12 to 18-year-olds, some of the key measurables that we're looking for are, could they lower their competitive scoring average by 5%. So if they're going from 80, could they get down to 76 in a year? I think that's a reasonable drop, right? Could they increase their speed by 5 to 10 miles an hour? Could they lower their total putts per round by 2 or 3 or whatever that happens to be? So hopefully these will give you some ideas as to some purposeful conversations with your kids as you're watching this. Could you keep track of your stats for, say, 3 out of 4 of your rounds? I think would be really good. Eventually it does become a habit. After you do it 4 or 5 times, it becomes a habit and you'll want to keep stats. But if at first, if we can get you to 3 out of 4, I'm pretty happy with that. And then can we increase your up and down percentage from 40% to 55% or whatever it happens to be, right? So give you some ideas. So as far as periodization training, one of the companies and one of my partners actually is Super Speed Golf, and these are kind of the 5 levels, but you kind of think of each level as a periodization or a block of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 11 weeks, 22 weeks, and then ongoing after that. So kind of see how things don't necessarily work in a in a diagonal line of improvement, but they kind of have these peaks and valleys, which is pretty normal for performance. Okay. I love super speed. I've had some of my players, I've been using this for, I think, 6 years now. I've had one of my players use it every year for 5 consecutive years and picked up 10 miles an hour every year since he was in 8th grade. So by the time he went from 75 miles an hour in 8th grade to 125 miles an hour as a senior in high school. So that was really impressive. So firm believer in super speed, and there will be a link in the blog post that accompanies this as well. I often get asked about early specialization and should my child be focusing in on one sport in order to gain the advantage. And I think the answer in science shows no. You want your athletes to be playing multiple sports, especially in those developmental years between 5 and 14. Okay? So they should be playing at least 1 or 2 team sports, 1 or 2 individual sports, if not 3, 4, and 5 different sports. And that's great. Get them exposed to as many sports to see what they like. Between that 14 and 16-year-old category, they'll typically be good at least 2 and maybe three different sports, as they should continue to play in multiple sports. And then at the age of 16 to 18, that's when they probably want to specialize, and that's usually that junior, senior year. And if that's the case, I do actually recommend, don't require, again, I like athletes being athletes, and you can develop some repetitive motion injuries if you're playing the same sport all the time. So it's okay at this time of year to take a little rest and put the clubs away for 4 to 6 weeks. But if you're trying to get a college scholarship, I'm not sure if that is the best option, and you want to keep training to develop your skills. Lastly, here's some of the resources that I found useful and beneficial. I've been heavily influenced by the Canadian Periodization or Canadian Golf Long-Term Athletic Development Program, and they have a great resource out. If you're a parent of a serious junior golfer, that is a highly recommended read. Henry Brunton's Journey to Excellence is a fantastic book on highly competitive junior golfers or developing competitive junior golfers. mytpi.com if you're looking for fitness and exercises and even some games. They've got a lot of great stuff on their website. For tournaments, agaga.org, and then there's, I think, a couple other, one of their newsletters I may have pulled some things out of as well. Istvan Volley was the gentleman that I have probably studied the most as far as periodization training, and have adopted a lot of his information on developing golf training programs. But Esteban Volley also was the one who studied Olympic athletes for 20 years and looked at, what do great athletes, or what does the progression or periodization program of the Olympic athlete look like? Really interesting stuff there. That's actually that long-term development book on the bottom right there. Anything by Pia Nielsen and Lynn Marriott, Vision 54, highly recommend. And then if you're serious in Pro Tour Golf College, has a lot of great resources as well.
If you'd like to schedule a no obligation strategy call, please feel free to reach out to me at 952-401-4653. Happy to chat and find a plan that works for you. So a little review of what's coming up in January. We do have our PGA Winter League that'll be starting. You can find that information on the Minnesota Junior PGA website here shortly. And then we will have some PGA Junior Golf School starting in February, available for private lessons Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then private groups, if you've got some teammates that are looking to play, or we do have some individuals. We have some small group now forming.